Hey everybody, my name is Chris and I'm from the Dynamic Drum School, and today I want to teach you how to play Yellow by Coldplay. The drummer is Will Champion, and this is a great song for beginners. You only have to know how to play 8th note drum beats. There's no fills and there's no 16th notes. So there's basically just 4 different drum beats you're going to want to learn. So I'm going to break down the 4 different drum beats first, and then we'll go into the breakdown of the form, and I'll show you where you're going to put the different drum beats in the different sections. So if you already know how to play basic 8th note drum beats, you can skip ahead to the next section. I'll put the timestamp above. And normally I kind of break down like a simplified version and then the note for note transcription. But because there's no 16th notes and no fills, I'll just do one this time. So we'll just do the 4 drum beats and then we'll break down the whole form for you. So why don't we get started with the drum set legend in case you don't know how to read drum notation. So the first X is the crash cymbal. Then we have the next X is the hi-hat. Then you'll see the next X has a circle on top of it. That means to open the hi-hat. The next X has a plus on top of it. That means to close the hi-hat. And with this, we're going to close the hi-hat with your foot and hit it at the same time. Then the next X is the ride cymbal. Then we have the snare drum and the bass drum. Let's take a look at example number 1. This is the drum beat that you're going to play for the instrumental section. So the instrumental section drum beat, we have 8 8th notes on the hi-hat. On beats 1, the 3, and the and, we have the hi-hat and the bass drum. And then on beats 2 and 4, we have the hi-hat and the snare. And now you'll notice above the X, we have the open hi-hat, that's the circle. You're just going to lift your foot up a little bit. Just lift your toes up, just so the hi-hat opens just a little bit. You're still going to want, on one side, the hi-hat still touching each other. If it's open too much, it won't sound good. And you'll see how the hi-hats, they kind of hit each other. That's not the sound you want. You want it closed just enough and open just enough where when you hit them, they're still touching each other. That way you get the nice swishy sound. So for the whole instrumental section, you're just going to slightly leave it open, and then you'll play the rest of the drum beat. So let's practice together at 60 beats per minute. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now let's take a look at example number 2. This is the drum beat for the verse section. So for the verse beat, we have 2 measures. This is a 2-measure drum beat. The first measure, all we're going to do is add a bass drum on the and of 1. Everything else is the same, and for the first measure, we'll close the hi-hat. So we still have 8 8th notes on the hi-hat, 2 and 4 on the snare, 1 and the 3 and, but we're adding an and a 1 on the bass drum. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. The second measure, hi-hat will be closed, except for the and of 4, we're going to open it up. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You'll open it up. So on the and of 4, you're going to open up your foot, hit it on the and. So 3 and 4, up, down. So you come down and you also hit with your hand and you close with your foot. So 3 and 4, up, down. So you may want to practice that a few times with just your foot and your hand. 3 and 4, up, down. Then you add the bass drum. 3 and 4 and 1. 3 and 4 and 1. So when you're coming up on the and of 4, you're lifting up your hi-hat foot, and you're going to come down on beat 1 with your hi-hat foot, close the hi-hat, hit the bass drum, and also hit the hi-hat. So 3 and 4 and 1. So just the second half. 3 and 4. So two measures, the two measure drum beat. Notice on beat 1 of the next measure, we put the plus sign that notates to close the hi-hat. So let's do this together. We're going to play at 60 beats per minute. We're going to do the 2 measure drum beat 4 times, so it'll be a total of 8 measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now let's take a look at example number 3. This is the drum beat you're going to want to learn for the chorus, and we're going to switch to the ride cymbal for this drum beat. 8 eighth notes on the ride cymbal, 2 and 4 on the snare drum. So on the 2 and 4, you hit the ride and the snare together. Beats 1 and a 2 and a 3, we're going to hit the ride and the bass drum together. So let's try it really slow. Let's practice it together. We'll do it 4 times at 60 beats per minute. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So now let's take a look at example number 4. This is the bridge outro section, and we're going to combine 2 of the drum beats you already learned. You're going to keep the hi-hat open from the previous section, and we're basically putting the drum beat for the instrumental section and the verse together. So the first measure of the 2 measure drum beat, we're going to have the instrumental section drum beat. We have bass drum on beats 1 and the 3 and, 2 and 4 on the snare, and 8 eighth notes with the open hi-hat. Then the second measure is almost exactly the same as the first drum beat, but we're just going to have the hi-hat open. So I'll play both measures for you. So this is cool. It makes it a little more challenging once you learn each beat individually. And I would recommend, if you struggle switching the 2 beats, you could just pick one of the beats. You could either just play the 1 and the 3 and the bass drum, or just play the 1 and the 3 and. That's a way to just simplify it a little bit. So let's try this together. 60 beats per minute. We're going to play the 2 measure beat 4 times, so 8 measures total. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Great, so now that you know how to play the 4 drum beats, let's break down the song form, and we'll show you where to apply the different drum beats into the different sections. So we'll start with the intro. The intro is 4 measures long, and there's no drumming in this section. You're just going to rest for 4 measures. Then we're going to start the instrumental section, and this is 8 measures long. So you'll notice you hit the crash on beat 1, and then you come down to the open hi-hat. And I would recommend already having the open hi-hat, like already have your foot open, just like slightly like we talked about before. So the first measure you'll hit the crash, the second measure you'll leave it out. Right next to the drum beat, you'll see this symbol means to repeat the 2 previous measures. Normally the repeat sign just looks like this with 1 slash in the middle of 1 measure. Here we have 2 measures, and we have 2 slashes, and then the same two dots on either side, and then the number 2 above to represent repeating the previous 2 measures. So you'll notice 8 measures, but we're going to play this 2-measure phrase 4 times for a total of 8 measures. Now let's take a look at the verse section. This is 20 measures long. Then we start with the verse with the crash going down to a closed open hi-hat. And what I would recommend with this is you're going to close the hi-hat on the and of 1. So the hi-hat in the previous section and the instrumental section will be open. You'll close it right when you hit the and of 1 with the bass drum. So you hit the crash in the bass drum, then you close it right away. This is where that 2-measure drum beat where we have the open hi-hat. So you're going to repeat that 2-measure phrase 6 times on this page, on the first page, and then you'll keep the beat going 2 more times on the start of the second page. And then notice this last line here leading into the chorus, we're going to have the hi-hat closed for both measures. So then we're going to open the hi-hat for the next 2 measures. Hit the crash going into the chorus. This is a really nice transition. Instead of just doing an open hi-hat the last time, that would work too, but it's a really nice subtle musical transition building up into the chorus. So now the chorus starts, and we're going to switch to the ride cymbal. Then we start the chorus with the crash and the bass drum leading right away to the ride cymbal. Notice then on the second measure, we leave out the crash. And then here we have that cymbal again. You're going to repeat the 2 previous measures. So you're going to play that 2-measure phrase, that 2-measure drum beat, total of 3 times. And then on the 7th measure, the crash in the bass drum. Let it ring. And then you'll notice the next measure is a full measure rest. And you'll hear the lyric, "You know I love you so," leading into the instrumental section. So after the chorus, we go back to the instrumental section. Same way as the first time, it's 8 measures long. Everything is the same. 2-measure phrase, crash cymbal, the first measure, leave out the crash cymbal, the second measure, repeat that 2-measure phrase 4 times for a total of 8 measures. Now let's take a look at verse 2. This is almost exactly the same as the first verse. It's just 6 measures shorter, so it's only 14 measures. But the last 4 measures are exactly the same. You'll notice you do the bass drum on the 1 and the 3 and you leave the hi-hat closed for both measures, and then the last 2 measures, the 13th and 14th measure, you're going to have the open hi-hat the whole time, leading into the next section with the ride cymbal into the chorus. Verse 2 leads into the chorus. So the second chorus is exactly the same as the first. It's 8 measures long. You start off with the crash cymbal. For the first measure, you leave it out. For the second, you're playing the ride now. You're going to play that 2-measure phrase 3 times for 6 measures, and then in the 7th measure, you hit the crash again with the bass drum, rest on beats 2, 3, and 4. The 8th measure, you rest on 4 beats, and that leads into the last instrumental section. So now we play the instrumental section one last time. It's going to be 8 measures, exactly like the other 2. Crash cymbal, back to the open hi-hat. Repeat those 2 measures 4 times. And then we go into the last section of the song. Now we just have one section left. This is the bridge outro section. This is 17 measures long. This is example number 4, where we combine the 2 different drum beats. So we have the drum beat from the instrumental section on the first measure, and then on the second measure we have the verse drum beat, where we leave the hi-hat open. So we're going to play crash on the first measure, and then on the second measure, you leave the hi-hat open, leave out the crash, and then you add the bass drum on the and a 1. You're going to repeat these 2 measures 6 times. So that's a total of 12 measures. And then on the 13th measure, you're going to hit the crash cymbal with the bass drum, and then there's no more drums for the rest of the song. You'll just hear the vocals and the guitar. So that's it. Pretty easy song, great for beginners because it's just the eighth notes. It's a little tricky to combine the two measures at the end. So if you struggle with the open hi-hat on the verse, on the second measure, just leave that out. And then if you struggle playing the two different drum beats on the outro, I would just recommend just playing one of them. So you could either play just the instrumental drum beat or you could play just the verse beat with the open hi-hat and then build up to where you can play both. Because it's pretty easy just to play the drum beats. What makes it a little bit harder is when you're adding the open hi-hats, playing the two different drum beats, and then switching to the ride cymbal. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It was great teaching you. I hope you had fun learning the song. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, smash the like button, and also feel free to donate to the channel. If you want to support the channel, there's a link to PayPal. So feel free to let me know in the description, in the comments, any other songs you'd like to learn or any other lessons, any questions you have about beginner drumming. I'm going to start doing more tutorials on some reading notation and how to tune the drums and set up the drums and then other beginning drumming related things. So let me know what you'd like to learn. Leave any comments below. Hope you enjoyed it and we'll see you next time. Thanks.